barring, like you said, it's not really like the whole hardcore prepper thing. We do attract that kind of people, People see people like myself, and the camouflage knives hanging all over and stuff like that. But, what about children? Like, do you welcome children to the events?
Children are so required. Diversity is key. The first thing we think of when we think of the type of bushcrafter that probably listen to your show, I can probably nail your demographic right down. I'd say probably 70% male, probably between the ages of 25 and 45, and probably have been out there and done that. That's great. That's going to be your core contingent. But what about the elders, the people who have actually done this, who have actually lived on a farm their whole lives, and this is second nature to them? Why not bring them out and have their skills be appreciated before their information is lost? The flip side of the coin, of course, as you say, is children. There will be a time when we've reached our yellow leaf of life and we're not quite as crisp of mind as we'd hope to be. We need these people to have those skills to perpetuate that learning, but also to take care of their community. We're not going to be self-reliant forever as individuals, and community helps support that and foster that. We've reached out to typical youth movements, scouting agencies, guiding agencies, even Army cadets, to get them involved, and I think in years to come you're going to see them being a lot more proactive. Another very successful integration that we've done is members of the First Nations communities of the area. I know there can be a lot of apprehension with various First Nations people when those of us who aren't of status are teaching skills that are considered to be skills of their people. They feel like they've been appropriated. But we need to make sure that they know they're welcome too, and honored that their ancestors have contributed these skills, this learning curve to us. So the first thing when we started harvest gathering was to ensure that all the reserves, the Alderville First Nations, Hiawatha First Nations, Curve Lake First Nations, Scugog First Nations, those are the ones that are surrounding this particular area, that they all received letters inviting them to come. And we've had quite a few elders of the Anishinaabe community, which is the community that's around this part of Ontario, in particular the Ojibwe are from here. They have a keen interest and they keep coming out. This is the first year where we've actually had a particular area designated for Aboriginal studies and First Nation studies.
Wow.
And we've set up a wigwam where, right now there's bear being smoked, there's a raccoon hide being tanned, they just finished dancing the wild rice that we ate for dinner. They do so many different skills that I personally couldn't contribute, but their knowledge, their passions can bring to the community. So to tie it back into children, absolutely. And we do offer children's programming, and we do offer things specific for them. But moreover, if they're ready, they need to start being treated as adults so that learning curve can continue and we can bring the community tighter together for a longer period.
Wow. Well, one of the things that I notice here is that the children, like you said, they are treated like adults. When they're ready, they have knives and axes and all of these really things that are important skills for young people to have. Whereas, in an urban environment, if a child brings a knife to a school, they're going to find themselves, in our current climate, in a whole lot of trouble. Everybody, children's aid will get involved, real big mess. But here it's as normal as having a canteen on them. And I think it's a very beautiful thing to give young people who may not have that opportunity, to give them that opportunity and to watch them flourish. And you see it, even in the couple of days that they're here.
Wolf, it all comes down to respect. If we respect that they've taken the time to learn the skills, if we've watched them be able to make use of it, I think it's important that they get that trust from us, that they can carry those. And when a utilitarian use comes along, that they are prepared for it. I stay very close to my knife. I don't like giving it away. I especially would be uncomfortable giving it away to a child that I don't know closely. So it seems like a lot of parents here do feel that their children should have the freedom when they're ready. And as you say, the age here seems much younger for that readiness. And I think that's maybe not so much the community itself, but the people who the community attract, people who recognize that a knife is a tool. And as long as it's being respected and the person who's using it we feel respect for, there's no reason not to have it.
Yeah, wow. So if people are interested in coming out to the gathering, you said it's once a year, so about what time of year does it happen?
We're doing it between middle of September to middle of October, like before Thanksgiving and well after Labor Day. Probably more towards the beginning part of that for next year, just judging from the amount of rain we've had the previous 3 years, doing it kind of around the first weekend of October. I think the general consensus is let's push it back to times where we don't have to feel damp and cold every morning. And it's certainly an ongoing thing. We definitely have the schedule up by, June or July. But bearing in mind that everything that happens on the workshops and the whole schedule and the entire gathering is all volunteers. So it changes very quickly as people opt in, opt out, lives change. There's no serious commitments that anybody signs for taking that on. So it does change. But throughout the year, new information constantly gets posted. To my knowledge, we're actually the only traditional skills program, let alone gathering, that post all of our financial statements online for anybody who's a member, and even the public, just to see exactly where their donations are going, so that they know their money's going to a right place, because that's also important, is that their donations are being appreciated, and that's one way we give back to them.
Wow. And you hear that for a lot of organizations. I don't want to name anything in particular that say, well, geez, only 1 penny of every dollar that I give, my $30 a month, actually gets to wherever it's supposed to go. That's a really wonderful thing. So now if somebody is interested in coming out to the gathering, where would they go? Obviously, there's a website.
There's a website, harvestgathering.ca. Is certainly your best choice for that. Now also, and by all means, anybody's free to go onto the Facebook. We do have a group page called Headwaters and Harvest. We actually work in combination with the Headwaters Gathering so as to not kind of split up the community too much, because it's very much similar skills. And on that Facebook page, people ask questions and post new articles, and there's really good discussions that are ongoing at all times. Everything from plants to animals to knife brands. Anytime somebody has a question, they post it, and I am always blown away with the amount of quality feedback they get, and answers and guidance. Nobody's asking for money. Again, this is community.
That's good. That's really good. And the most frustrating thing when you ask a question is have somebody give you a silly answer. Like, you're like, what do you think about this and this? And they're like, oh, well, why would you even want to know that? And I have seen on the Facebook group that you never get those dumb questions.
No.
You will get maybe opposing opinions, but you will always get, here's my version of this, and here's my version of this. And
I love
really
the opposing
powerful.
opinions. The opposing opinions show that there's something that might need to be discussed more. And I will watch those threads at all times. And whenever somebody says to me, well, Darian, I'd love to come out and I'd love to do a talk, but I don't know what on, I've got a little logbook of these discussions. And I might be a bit of an instigator by making them a workshop at the gathering, but you know what? We get that hashed out. We get people talking about these things and get things resolved. Everybody has different experiences. Our keynote speaker this year, an amazing guy, a professor from up in North Bay, has been living kind of the traditional skills life for some time. And instead of standing up in front of people and just talking, he decided to open it up, recognizing the merits and the asset that this community is, saying, hey, for example, I've got all these red acorns, and I've been doing some blanching of them to try to get the tannins out by boiling them, and it's been okay. Anybody try that cold water method for getting the tannins out? Somebody else puts up their hand, oh yeah, I do it this way. Somebody else said, well, I tried it that way, but this way is better. So now the whole community is learning from the failures, unfortunately, but also the successes of everybody else very, very rapidly. And we don't need a particular workshop on acorns, because acorns was quickly discussed and moved over.
That's amazing.
And that's what a strong community does.
And some of the workshops that I have been, if you get somebody who is absolutely new, and they will say, what's tannin? Nobody looks at them and is like, oh. Everybody's like, oh, that's this and this. And from my experience, everybody's been really friendly and very helpful. And I think all of us who get into this lifestyle understand that I bought my first knife at some point. I, tanned my first hide at some point. All of the activities here, whether it be archery or climbing or skinning, we all had to do it at one time first.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really amazing.
Right, Les Stroud had to take his first steps.
Yes.
And
yes.
He's excelled from there. Everybody has their merits, but we're all on a different journey. We all have a different curve, and nobody here that I've ever seen, as you say, you've said the same thing, I've never seen anybody show disrespect to a journey of somebody else. You know, not everybody develops these skills early in life. We have people who are 40s and 50s that are coming here who have just started a couple of years back. And yeah, their skills might not be the same as somebody who started when they were 5 years old, but that doesn't make their journey any less worthwhile.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Wolf.
And if I could just have you give us your website again?
It's www.harvestgathering.ca, and if anybody has any questions, my email's plastered all over it.